So who wants to be a hero? Ken does, but Ken doesn't know how to be a hero, right? Ken doesn't know how to get wounded for real. He doesn't know how to get injured for real. Right? This is so subtle, okay? There's a subtle condescension. Do you get? He doesn't know how to be a hero, but he desperately wants to be a hero. In whose eyes? In Barbie's eyes. And Barbie says, "You're so brave," but she doesn't mean it. Right? It's a condescending mockery. Wow, it's a crazy big week, and we're going to spend the next 2 or 3 weeks on culture, on Barbie and Oppenheimer. Now, some of you were at mystery school, and there'll be some material, although not so much this week, but there'll be some material that will obviously cross over with mystery school. So let me see if I can kind of step back and create an intention, create a context, and dive in, because there's so much to do today that I barely know where to start. Oh my God, welcome everyone. Welcome. Yay. Okay. So here we go. We've talked about Barbie, and let's start here. We've talked about Barbie twice. We talked about Barbie in August. We're in 2023. We're in the summer, early fall of 2023. That's where we are right now. Let's just place ourselves. We're in this moment that we've framed as a meta-crisis. A meta-crisis means that there are cascading risks in various sectors that interplay with each other, and that at its very core, the two systems, the civilization system and the substrate of the biosphere and the physiosphere, right? Those two systems are clashing with each other in a way that both civilization will essentially self-terminate, and it will self-terminate in a kind of death of humanity, because either the energy substrates and the resource substrates and the systems upon which it's all built have exceeded and crossed their boundaries, are exceedingly now fragile, and are subject to imminent collapse. Whether imminent means 10 years, 20, 30, or 40 is an open question. Is it 50? Is it, right? What are the chances, the numbers, right? Crunch those numbers, but there's a serious and significant possibility that the thing could collapse. That's one. That's called the meta-crisis. And I started talking about this intensely in 2011 when people were laughing. And it's extremely important. It's beyond important. It's like, oh my God. And there's a second form of the meta-crisis, which is not the death of humanity. It's the potential death of our humanity, which means we respond. That happens because we respond to the fragile global systems, right? Animated by exponentially increasing forms of exponential technologies, some of them controlling technologies, some of them weaponized technologies. We respond to it by actually closing up society, right? Dominating society, either in an obvious totalitarian way, an obvious closed society, or an invisibly closed society. You don't realize it's closed, but actually it begins to be guided by a system in which everyone is a number, everyone's opinions are controlled, right? The feeds that we see are controlled. How we respond to those feeds, at least enough of a percentage of us, is invisibly controlled, that every election, every decision is actually made by the way we optimize the web and the way we optimize new forms of invisible control. And that's actually at the very core of what we call the MIT Media Lab. And I'm going to be publishing one volume just on this, right? I hope in the next, by January, right? One volume just going through, right, the MIT Media Lab documents and the B.F. Skinner documents and showing this to be true. And then another larger volume on techno-feudalism, and it's insanely important. It's what we call the death of our humanity. And yet, we're not here in this mad depression. We're not here to be doomers. We're not here to be deniers. And we're not here to engage in domination. We are here to invoke the dawn of desire. We're here to invoke the dawn of a new narrative of desire, which is a new narrative of what it means to be a human being. Because desire is the desire for new value. Right? Desire desires value, and we live in a field of value. And that field of value is also a field of eros. Eros and value are one. There's no split between them. Reality is eros value all the way down and all the way up the evolutionary chain. That's huge. Now, we've unpacked what that means in many One Mountains. So if you're new, little apology, right? Those are careful sentences, right? They're not frivolous, but I'm not going to unpack all of them now. I'm just going to allude to them now, okay? Right, so our context is, actually, there's good news. The gospel means good news. There's a new gospel. Right? There's good news. But that good news comes not from the revelation of just one person. It comes from the deepest read that we have of the interior sciences and the exterior sciences. And they're merging together and they're coming together in a new superstructure. And a new superstructure means a new set of worldviews, a new set of dreams, right? A new set of values, stories of value. Right? Stories of value rooted in first principles and first values. And we're here to actually be extremely pragmatic and filled with wild celebration. We're celebrating because you can only change the world if you're willing to already live in the world that's already changed. You got to change the world, not from a place of resignation and not from a place of depression, from a place of extreme sobriety, extreme seriousness, extreme gravitas, and extreme joy. Right? Literally the joy of reality that I experienced through directly accessing the full aliveness of reality, moving in me, as me, and through me, the full eros of reality, moving in me, as me, and through me, the full desire of reality, living in me, as me, and through me, because reality is desire. Reality is eros. Reality is value. There's a field of value, and that field of value reaches for a new possibility, and that field of value generates a new world and a new vision. And that new story generates a new story of value from within which we create. And so we're here to actually respond to the meta crisis like Da Vinci and his cohorts did in the Renaissance by enacting a new story of value, rooted in first principles and first values, that enact a new grammar of value. And Elena, as you and I are beginning to know, we're using that word very precisely, a new grammar of value. So that's our context. Okay, is that enough of a context for everybody? Everyone's good? That's enough. That's enough of a recapitulation context. We've got our context. Okay, are we good? Give me a yes. Are we ready? We're doing a big day today. Are we ready? Let's wake up. Let's do this. This is not ordinary. We're going to inconvenience ourselves, okay? We're going to inconvenience ourselves. That's my line for today to myself. Inconvenience myself, okay? The way you build a new world is you inconvenience yourself. I had to meet with my friend James because we're starting a new sister program to the mystery school right in Europe called The Crossing. And it's been so intense for me the last 9 days since I got back. I thought I'd get back, we'd kind of sink in. It's been crazy intense. And I had promised James to meet and we didn't meet. So I said, okay, let's meet. I'll get up at 5:30 a.m. We'll meet, Saturday morning, right? I was with my son. Actually, two sons are here. My older son, Yair, and my younger son, Zion. And Zion and I, whenever we get together, we watch late night Supergirl. Right, as many episodes as we can, and then we do a moral analysis of Supergirl. So we have to do that till late Friday night. But I promised James that I'd be up there at 5:45 a.m. or 6, and there we were meeting. We met for 2 hours. Why? Because it was inconvenient and I was exhausted, but it doesn't matter. We show up. We show up. And then we relax in the showing up. We relax in the joy of showing up. So I want to ask everyone today, inconvenience yourself. And when you inconvenience yourself, right? Not in a way that's not sustainable, not in the way that you don't sleep 8 hours a night, generally eat well, exercise, take good vitamins, right? Take good vitamins. Shati, I'm taking my vitamins every day. I haven't missed a day, right? Oh my God, right? Taking my vitamins, right? And we inconvenience ourselves. So I want to actually ask everyone today, inconvenience your heart. Stretch today. We're going to stretch today. We're going to stretch. We're going to stretch open. And the way we're going to stretch open is, okay, we're going to actually look at 2 cultural stories over the next 3 weeks, approximately. One is Barbie, the other is Oppenheimer. We did a first meeting on Barbie in August before we did our 2023 Mystery School. And we did a beautiful, we wrote it up, Elena wrote it up beautifully, and it's on Medium. I'm going to recapitulate a little bit of that. Then we did 2 days, right, both on day 1 of Mystery School this summer and on day 5, We went into Barbie. I'm not gonna go there today. Next week we're gonna cover maybe some of that material. But what we're trying to do is, let me just explain what we're doing. We're gonna take a look at two stories. One is a story that culture made up, Barbie. Barbie's a story. It's a story about Barbie and about Barbie and Ken. And it's a story incarnate in a doll. And then Barbie is a movie, which is a story about the story. So culture told a story. Now, culture not only told a story, but Barbie is breaking box office records all over the place. So it's resonating all over the world. People are watching it all over the world. Right? It's entering into the heartstream and the bloodstream of culture. So we're going to look at that story and we're going to see, okay, how does that story relate to an accurate story of reality? What's the story that's being told in culture now? And use that as a mirror to get us to a deeper story, to a more profound story, which actually blows our hearts open. Because as we're going to see, Barbie is actually, I would say, the most dangerous movie ever made recently. Seriously, the most dangerous movie ever made, and not dangerous in a good way. As David's about to resonate in the code, where Chuang Tse says, the great Chinese sage says, I come to speak dangerous words. I ask only that you listen dangerously. That's my favorite citation. We come here in one mountain to speak dangerous words, and we ask only that we all listen together dangerously. No, not those kind of dangerous words. They're dangerous words which are insidious, which undermine the joy of reality, which are empirically not valid, but pretend to be valid, that have hosts of hidden assumptions, which are actually dogmatic, and which actually are setting the agenda of culture. Because that's where the story of culture is told. It's told in the stories that culture makes up around itself in its cinematic form and tells around the campfire of celluloid. So around the celluloid campfire, we tell our stories, and it's those stories that define culture. And if we actually understand that the meta-crisis is real, and that the response to the meta-crisis has to be a new story of value, out of which we generate a new reality, then we've got to go look at those stories of culture. Does everyone get why this makes so much sense, why we need to do this, why this is not frivolous? We need to know how to read these stories. So we're gonna look at this story today, of Barbie, and we're gonna look at it slowly, step at a time, okay? And then we're gonna go in. Okay, we're gonna try and look at a bunch of clips, about Barbie, and we're gonna look, next week, the week after, in the coming weeks, also at Oppenheimer, because Barbie and Oppenheimer are related. And we're going to fill in, we just touched the edge of this in our meeting before mystery school, in One Mountain, and at mystery school. We touched just the very edge of it. So we're gonna try and bring this all together and take this to an entirely new level. Okay, so are we ready? Are we ready? Are we ready? Who's ready? Are we ready to play a larger game? Are we ready to play a larger game? Are we ready to play a larger game? And you're asking, why is he asking that? What is he doing? Is he a fucking cheerleader? Sorry, I didn't mean to be inappropriate in words. Apologies. Yes, of course I'm a cheerleader. What else is there to be besides a cheerleader? Right? Go team. Who knows cheerleader chants? Christina, are you here? Christina was a cheerleader. Right? Of course we're cheerleaders. There's nothing, we need to be cheerleaders. Cheerleaders means that I choose joy, that I choose to step in, that I choose to be excited, that I choose to be excited about the field of value, which is the field of play, And I'm excited, for the great unfolding that's about to happen. So of course I'm a cheerleader because I choose joy. I've got to step into joy, So, are we ready to play a larger game? Yes, I'm cheerleading myself and you and she. We're cheerleaders. Yeah, to be a cheerleader is to open up the field of blessing. So are we ready to play a larger game? Are we ready to participate in the evolution of love? That's what we want to do now. So here we go. Okay, let's start. So what's the Barbie movie about? Okay, let's just kind of start in the beginning. What's the Barbie movie about, okay? So maybe David, read our code. Let's read our code, so we'll have our code, and we'll take it after the code. David resonates the code. Here we go. Oh, my God.
All right. Here we go.
Right.
Resonating the code.
David, you've got your Mr. Rogers sweater on. Does David?
Right.
Oh, my God.
And I've been practicing my British accent, but haven't quite gotten it there. So I've got my Midwestern.
Yeah. Make us excited. Who likes that sweater? Hot damn. Who likes that sweater? Oh, my God.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. All right, so here's this week's evolutionary love code. Barbie is the most dangerous movie ever made. And not dangerous in a good way, not in the way of Chuang Tse, who writes, I came to speak dangerous words. I ask only that you listen dangerously. Barbie has one message. There is no love story. Barbie and Ken are an ontological illusion. Einstein wrote, separateness, the separate self, is the great illusion. Culture claims through Barbie that the love story is an illusion. Only separation is real. Barbie is wrong. There is a love story. Barbie and Ken love each other desperately. Barbie and Ken need each other, and Barbie and Ken are fully unique and autonomous. The great contradiction of autonomy and communion is resolved in ecstasy. The love story is real. We love Barbie. We love Ken. We love Ken and Barbie. And reality is Ken and Barbie. Barbie and Ken all the way up and all the way down the evolutionary chain. I turn my word back to you, Mark.
That fantastic? Right? We got our code. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to go really slow, everyone, all right? Like crazy slow. All right, just so we can go step at a time. So how does the Barbie movie open? The Barbie movie opens with, we see these Barbie dolls, you know, are the old style Barbie dolls, which are the old relationship style. And the old relationship style, and I'm going to look not at the last 5,000 years or 10,000 years, and I'm going to look just at the last, you know, few hundred years as a snippet of culture, but it's pretty accurate, okay? So in the old relationship style world, you had the old Barbie dolls who were basically, in some sense or another, what we would call role mates, right? Men were out there making a living. They were being protector providers, right? Women were being child bearers, and they were holding the baby, and they were nurturing, and they were creating the household, right? And so you had this relationship deal. Now, it got broken in many ways. There were moments where women were extremely involved in commerce at different moments in time in history, and etc. This is not an absolute full historical read, but in general, you could easily and accurately say that over the past, you know, 1,000 years, there was a core relationship deal. And some version of that deal, Amazonian queens notwithstanding and Wonder Woman movies notwithstanding, those are exceptions. That's why the movies go wild. But the basic model has been some version of, for the last couple 100,000 years, of this relationship deal. And there was a polarity. There was a, you know, movement between the men and the women in the world in which they each needed each other in a particular way. This polarity may have started, this relationship deal may have started in the world of farming, maybe the world of early agriculture, maybe early agrarian, which is, you know, farming with plows, maybe even horticultural, maybe it's even earlier in history, maybe it's even, there's some version of this even in hunter-gatherer societies, not clear, right? I'm not going to do the anthropology now, though it's quite an interesting conversation, but there's some version of this relationship deal in place forever. And this relationship deal has been demonized as patriarchy. This is what's called patriarchy. When, of course, that's not quite accurate. This relationship deal was not a bunch of weak women dominated by a bunch of bad men who forced women into this agreement, as Janet Chavez points out, and other feminist scholars point out. No, this relationship deal came into being for many reasons, including the need for safe childbirth, right? The difficulty of having safe childbirth once we moved from early horticultural handheld tools, right, to heavy plow tools in which miscarriage became far more possible, right? The natural upper body strength of men naturally stronger than women, right? Women, right, have breasts that feed babies and lactate and wombs that actually grow babies, right? So there's a different structure between men and women, right? And this different structure, right, combined with sociocultural, right, issues, combined with economic issues, and also combined with interior senses, right, created this relationship deal. There was much that was beautiful in this deal, and there was much that was terrible. That was a horror. And that is fairly critiqued by people who label this deal patriarchy. That's absolutely true. And obviously in this relationship deal, the feminine, after a certain amount of time, was actually disenfranchised, right? Until 120 years ago, women didn't vote in the world. I mean, let's just be dramatic, right? The most sophisticated Western men in the world, even 120 years ago, who supported women emerging, still said women can't vote. That would be absurd to have women vote, right? I mean, that's just to give you a sense, one fragrance. I mean, that's the tip of an iceberg. So that there emerged something called a critique of this relationship deal, which was labeled as patriarchy, is for very real reasons. There was a lot to critique, and it also emerged because of a set of economic, social, interior, exterior factors that came together, and this became, for a period of time, right, the way to create a stable unit called a family. And in that family, right, actually held together society and allowed society to evolve for a period of time. So that's about where we are. Okay, so far so good. We're not interested. This is not our topic for today. So Barbie begins, the very beginning of Barbie is alluding to all of this. Does everyone get what I'm talking about? So the very first scene of Barbie just alludes to this. And then, right, immediately, who knows what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the first scene in Barbie? The first scene in Barbie that alludes to the first Barbie dolls, right? The Barbie dolls are an expression of this old world, right? Is everyone getting this? Right, that's the first, like literally the first few seconds in Barbie are alluding to this whole world. Okay, then Barbie says, no, there's a new world that's emerged, which is the emergence of first wave feminism, although it doesn't call it that, social feminism, in which women are empowered. Now, who on this podcast, right? Who on this one mountain, who's a social feminist? I hope all of us, right? Social feminism is this notion, first wave feminism, that women need to claim their place, that their place has actually been split off from them, and that women should be winning Nobel Prizes, and women should be, if they want to be doctors, and if they want to be, they should be researchers. If they want to be, they should be presidents. If they want to be, they should be senators, right? And if they want to be, they should be pharmacologists, right? Right? It was a very beautiful, right, emergence. And there's this sense that we all agree on that. This is what we might call liberal feminism. And there's the sense that all problems have been solved. And that's what the beginning of Barbie is. Everything's been solved, right? It's all good. Women are doctors and entrepreneurs, and we see a whole set of scenes right in the beginning of Barbie. Does everyone remember this? Where you have women in the White House, and then you have, one woman, one of the Barbie dolls gives a speech where there's no contradiction between, my logic and my feelings, and they're both perfectly integrated, and they're actually, they play beautifully in the world, and there's this idealized sense of a successful feminism represented by the entire new line of Barbie dolls, all in emancipated positions in societies, right? It's all good. We've arrived at this great liberation and this great new world. That's how Barbie begins. Does everyone get that everything I just said is implicit in the first few scenes in Barbie? Just give me a show in the chat box so I know we're together here. Everyone get what I just did? I'm just literally referring to the first few scenes in Barbie. Does everyone get that? That's all there. Everything I just said is all there in the text. Everyone get that? Okay, so here we go. Now it starts to get interesting. So then we get to this strange moment. There's something wrong. Okay, and I want to get there's something wrong. And I want to take a look at, right, a couple of scenes when you begin to realize something's gone wrong here. Okay, and the first thing I want to look at is we're going to call clip 1, which is about, Ken. Now Ken is the other Mattel doll. There's Ken and Barbie. And we're going to stay close, everybody. If you haven't yet seen the movie, see it this week. We're going to spend a few weeks, right, reading culture together, right? And every week's going to be, we're going to do something new. So here we go. Okay. So this could be a course in how do you read texts? How do you read texts of culture? How do you read movies? So let's take us inside and let's see the clip, which is about Barbie and Ken. Ken is the male Mattel doll. There's Barbie and Ken, right? And let's see the clip.
Barbie has a great day every day, But Ken only has a great day if Barbie looks at him.
Hi, Barbie!
Hi, Ken. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie!
Hi, Ken.
Hi, Ken. Hi, Ken. Hi, Ken. Hi, Ken. I got us both ice cream. Cool.
Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie!
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie!
Hi, Ken.
Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie. Hi, Barbie.
Hi, Barbie!
Oh, hi, Alan.
There are no multiples of Alan. He's just Alan.
Yeah, I'm confused about that.
Hey, Barbie, check me out.
Ken!
Ken.
Oh, hey, Barbie.
Hi.
How much of that did you see?
We saw the whole thing. Let's get you up on your feet, Ken. There you go.
You're so strange.
Use your legs. There you go. You okay?
Yep.
Oh,
Totally.
Oh, looks like this beach was a little too much beach for you, Ken.
If I wasn't severely injured, I would beat you off right now, Ken.
I'll beach off with you any day, Ken.
Hold my ice cream, Ken. All right, Ken, you're on. Let's beach off.
Anyone who wants to beach him off has to beach me off first.
I will beach both of you off at the same time.
But you don't even know how to beat yourself off. How are you going to beach both of
Okay.
us off? It
I know how
doesn't
to-
make sense.
Ken?
And
Why are
even
you
beat
getting
yourself off.
emotional?
You're going to beach
Come
both
on,
of us
Ken.
off.
Nobody's gonna beach anyone off. Okay?
Let's go.
Okay. Fix that.
Barbie, hold my hand.
You're okay.
Stay with me, Barbie.
Great. Not even broken. You'll be fine.
Shredding waves is much more dangerous than people realize.
You're very brave, Ken.
Thank you, Barbie.
Yeah,
You know, surfer's not even my job.
I know.
And it is not lifeguard, which is a common misconception.
Very common.
Yeah, because actually my job, it's just beach.
Right.
And what a good job you do at beach.
You should heal up in no time. Actually, in the time that it took for me to say that sentence, you healed.
Fantastic.
And it's basically Ken at the beach, where Ken says, I only feel okay, Barbie, right, when you look at me. And it's this very, very subtle and beautiful moment. And then Ken says, hey, Barbie, look at me. Look what I'm about to do. And he takes his surfboard and he runs headlong into the water while Barbie's watching them. Of course, he's not exactly looking out. And he smashes into a concrete barrier and is taken to the hospital. And Barbie goes with him to the hospital and says, Ken, you're so brave. Does everyone remember that scene? Who remembers that scene? What is Ken saying? What's happening here? So Barbie's in Barbie land. Barbie goes down to her car. You saw her driving in the car in that scene. She goes down to her car. She kind of goes out of her house, falls perfectly into her car. Her makeup's perfect. She looks beautiful. But if you notice, something has shifted. She's not that concerned with Ken looking at her, right? Also, although she's being perfect, but she's not being perfect so much for Ken. There's this advancement. She's being perfect for herself. And in some sense, that's a very deep and beautiful advance. Barbie's not being perfect. She's not getting dressed. She's not getting dressed to be alluring to Ken. She's not being sexy to be alluring to Ken, right? She's not picking beautiful colors of clothes to be alluring to Ken. She's actually not interested in Ken, as we're going to see. Now, on one level, stay really close, and you can't, we're going to go step at a time here, and we're going to get this really carefully. On one level, that's an advance. Okay, that's step one. This is step one. That's an evolutionary step forward. I'm being beautiful because I want to be beautiful, right? And because I want to feel my beauty now. I want to feel my delight, right? Does that make everyone get sense that's a step forward? Who gets that? Chat box. Who gets that? Who gets that? That's a step forward. Does everyone get that? It's beautiful, right? It's a beautiful step forward. It feels great, right? Fantastic. right? I like her car. I like the colors. Now, who gets the tragedy? But there's also a tragedy here, because here's the story, right? Just check in with yourselves, everyone, right? Do you really get dressed up the same way when you're by yourself? Who really gets dressed up the same way when they're by themselves? This is just a little just between us. Come on, everybody, get real. How many people really get dressed up regularly, Carrie? Regularly, occasionally we do. But do we regularly get dressed up the same way when we're by ourselves? Right? So the answer is most of us don't. The overwhelming majority of us don't. Now, sometimes we do because, right, we want to feel good. Now, when I say, like, you should try and put on good clothes every day, right, that feel good, that are relaxed, that are, but if I'm utterly by myself in the house, I'll still get dressed, but I'll pay a little bit less attention. Now, is it wrong that I'll pay a little bit less attention? Is it I'm disconnected with my own individuality? Well, maybe, in part. Yeah, it's important to get dressed up. It's important to have a sense of self-love. It's important to individuate. That's all true. And it's not wrong that we live in a relationship. Right? It's not wrong. I just want to just track this. So there's level one where the woman gets dressed up for the man, and that's insidious, and that's tyrannical, and that's a tyrannical cosmetics industry, right? And that's an oppression of the feminine, and it's degrading to the feminine, and the feminine needs to move beyond that. That's a big yes. So there's a level one of role mate where the woman is being beautiful for the man. She's not connected to her own power. She's not connected to her own Eros. She's not connected to her own sensuality, where it's all for the man, which is in some sense degraded and pathological. Yes, big yes on that, big yes. And number two, so there's a level two where there's this individuation that happens, where I move beyond that, and I'm gonna like, hey, right? Whatever I'm not gonna do, I'm not gonna do this, and I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do any of those things which I'm doing for the man. And it might have to do with my dress, and it might have to do with my clothes, and it might have to do with, right, with makeup or not makeup. And right, the first generation of feminism is anti-lipstick, right, and anti any sort of cosmetic, right. In other words, and right. So there's this rejection of that kind of degraded notion of the feminine. That's level two. But then level two can pathologize. I just want you to catch this. It's already in the beginning of the movie. Level two can pathologize, in which I'm getting dressed up irrespective of my relationship to other. And whether it's, by the way, to the man or to my beloved. The Barbie movie, by the way, ignores the LGBT world. That's the one sense in which the Barbie movie is politically actually completely incorrect, actually. It's all about Ken and Barbie. And it freeze frames on the classical, what we would call normative heterosexuality. That's Barbie's frame. So I'm going to stay in that frame because that's the Barbie movie. But let's talk about a wider frame. Let's not talk about it just Barbie and Ken. Let's just talk about a love story, right? It's Barbie and Barbie. It's Ken and Jack, right? Barbie and Melissa, right? In other words, there's a love story. And so there's some sense in which I do get dressed for my beloved, right? There is a sense of that, right? There's a sense of that there's a relationship, and there's a sense of, right, relationship, right, of reality as relationship. So there's already in the beginning of Barbie, and I want to check who gets this point. We're just getting, we've barely gotten started. But who gets this first point? There's this sense in which Barbie's no longer concerned to be in the gaze of Jack, right, to be in the gaze of Ken. She's liberated herself from the male gaze, which is step one, super beautiful and important. But there's a shadow to it. I want to see who gets this. There's a shadow to it. There's the sense, now by itself, you can't tell if this is a shadow or not. But you have this first insidious sense. I got it as soon as I watched the movie. Hey, this is a great step forward. Okay, I see the step forward. But Barbie's completely unconcerned with her beloved. Whoever her beloved is, whether her beloved is Melissa, right, or Barbie too, right, or Ken, she's not concerned. She's just in her own self-referential, right, girls' night all the time, never stops, right? Constant delight, no relationship to other. This notion of reality as a relationship, or as at least, let me stay close, as reality being a yearning love story, where I reach out beyond my biology. Stay close to me. That's an important sentence. Every sentence matters here. I'm not being casual here, with permission, everybody, tender. I reach out beyond my biology, and I'm yearning for someone that's not my daughter, that's not my brother, it's not my biology. I'm yearning to love because love moves in me, right? That transcends race and transcends biology, right? That notion of loving, and I get a little dressed up for you sometimes, right? That's part of what that relationship is, not in its pathological sense, but in its beautiful sense. That's already wiped out. Does everyone, who's getting this? I want to just check in one more time. Give me a yes if you're getting what I'm saying. It's a first point we're making. It's very subtle. It's very subtle. Okay, good. It's very subtle. So that's this first point. Now, look what happens. Point 2. Ken, do you see how it's now been reversed? Ken has now become, right, what used to be the level 1 or role mate woman. Ken says, I only exist in, if you're not looking at me, Barbie, I don't exist. Wow. So Ken is now adopted and internalized the pathologized version of relationship level 1. If you're not looking at me, Barbie, I don't exist. Wow, that's not quite right. So Ken gets relationship. He gets relationship as real, but he's a caricatured and pathologized version of relationship. Does everyone get that? So the movie insidiously, these are literally the first scene, if you're reading carefully, in the first scene, we've had Barbie dismiss the ontology of relationship. Seems like an evolutionary move forward, but there's also a deep shadow to it. There's a kind of stepping out of the reality of reality's relationships. And then Ken appearing in that old pathologized version of feminine level 1, where Ken says, I only exist if you're looking at me, which is of course not quite right. And Barbie's going to correctly say later to Ken, no, you got to be Ken. And that's true. That's a partially right thing. You do need to be Ken. And Ken does not only exist in relationship to Barbie. There's a notion of autonomy. There's not only communion. Communion is, right, one dimension of a love story. Intimate communion is one dimension of a love story. But there's a second dimension of a love story, which is I'm individuated, right? I'm self-loving. I'm committed to my own perpetuation, the perpetuation of my own unique self. That's self-love. That's autonomy. Ken's got to be Ken. Barbie's got to be Barbie. That's absolutely true. But that's only one dimension of the love story. And as we're going to see, what Barbie's going to do is basically say the only love story, but this is, I'm going to give you just a little foreshadowing. Barbie's going to say the only true love story is a feminine love story between biological mother and daughter. And we're going to see that love story in 6 clips. And the second version of the love story is a contrived love story. Love's not actually real, which is what Barbie's going to say. There is no real love story, right, between people who are allured to each other. Allurement's not real in Cosmos. Attraction's not real. Intimate communion's not real. What is there? There's autonomy. There's me being me. And there's this contrived sense, which we're going to call self-love, but it's really just be me because everything else is made up. And the only thing that seems to be real is that I'm here, so I should love me in some way. Although the movie doesn't really get to that deep of a level of self-love, but there is some sense in the movie of separate from me. There's no Barbie and Ken. There's only Barbie and Ken, meaning the autonomy side. But it's not even framed as a genuine self-love story, and there's no coming back together. In other words, the overwhelming message of this movie, I'm going to show it to you scene by scene. You got to see how it's constructed. We're going to go into the laboratory of culture and see how culture speaks. But the overwhelming message of this movie is going to be that Barbie and Ken are not real. There's no ontology to Barbie and Ken. There is no real love story. Okay? So the way the movie does it in the beginning, step 1 is it actually pathologizes the notion of Barbie existing in Ken's gauge, which is in part correct, but then doesn't, and then sets up Ken as the inverse of that original Barbie. Ken only exists now in Barbie's gaze, but doesn't create this next step when actually I do get dressed up for Ken and Ken does get dressed up for me, and we do live in relationship to each other. And we do want to be in a relationship to each other, and we do want to be moved by each other's beauty and depth, and we do want to be aroused by each other's voice. And we actually do live in a relationship because reality is allurement. And reality is a relationship all the way down and all the way up the evolutionary chain. That already in the very beginning of Barbie is denied. Subtly, it's going to get much more dramatic. Who's following so far? Who's following so far? Let me just check in. Let me just check in because I know we're doing a crazy high level game here. I know we're doing this as a crazy, crazy high level game. It's not available. It's not available any place in culture. Okay, so we're going to go deeper. Okay. So let's look now at the second clip. We're going to look at a second clip. Okay, here we go. We're going to look at a second clip. And this is a clip where, right, we see it's about it where we see where Barbie, this is the dance scene at the Barbie party. So let me just go close. Okay, here's what happens. I'm going to fill it in for you. I'm going to fill in the scene. So we are, cheers everybody. Cheers, cheers. So right after Ken smashes into a concrete barrier, trying to impress Barbie because he only exists in Barbie's gaze, and then Barbie goes with him to the doctor and says, "Oh, Ken, you're so brave." Right? And we kind of wonder, what does Ken do? But she's not really relating to Ken. She's just being polite. She's not like really moved by Ken. She's not aroused by Ken. She's not allured to Ken. She's, "Oh, Ken, you're so..." She does the polite society thing because she's the perfect woman who does the polite society thing. So she says to Ken, "You're so brave," but there's no depth to it. There's no resonance to it. There's no sincerity to it, meaning Ken's not really a hero to Barbie. Does everyone get that? This is really important. That's point 3. So there's this mocking line. This is point 3. And we're at the very beginning of the movie. There's this mocking line where Ken, right, says to Barbie, "Did you see what I did for you?" And Barbie says, "You're so brave." But it's a mocking line. It's not real. That's point 3. She's mocking him, right? Not directly, but it's a mockery. He's not being brave. He's not being courageous. He's done something inanely stupid and idiotic, right? He ran headlong into a concrete wall, essentially a concrete barrier, without looking, like an idiot, right? And she says to him, "You're so brave," right? Meaning it's a condescending, lovely thing to say, but with no reality and no depth. And so, does everyone get this? So this is point 3. So who wants to be a hero? Ken does, but Ken doesn't know how to be a hero, right? Ken doesn't know how to get wounded for real. He doesn't know how to get injured for real, right? This is so subtle, okay? There's a subtle condescension. Do you get? He doesn't know how to be a hero, but he desperately wants to be a hero. In whose eyes? In Barbie's eyes. And Barbie says, "You're so brave," but she doesn't mean it, right? It's a condescending mockery. That's point 3. And again, all of this, literally, the reviewers, they don't even get close to any of this. You get this? So he desperately wants to be a hero. He wants to be seen in her gaze, and he feels like, "I don't exist out of your gaze." Now, is Ken right that he doesn't exist out of her gaze? He's absolutely wrong, and he's absolutely right. Right? If reality is relationships, we actually don't exist out of relationship. That's actually true. Ken's not wrong. He's just a pathologized version of that truth. And because the entire movie is dedicated to saying there is no love story, and that reality as relationships is not true, that's a false claim. So the entire movie is going to caricature the notion of reality as relationships. It's going to caricature the notion that there's a real love story and place that notion in the eyes of an idiotic Ken. So the notion that reality is a relationship, that I only exist in your gaze, idiotic Ken says that. And we'll see that the notion that the love story is real is going to be the demonized claim of patriarchy. Wow. Did everyone get that sentence? Patriarchy is going to be the voice for the reality of the universe is a love story. There's a Ken and Barbie love story. That's going to be patriarchy's voice. You see how subtle that is? So that begins already in this point 3, right? In which there's this male desire to be a hero. That desire is mocked. There are no heroes. There's a book which I'll refer to in a little bit. I referred to it about a month ago, and we did our first One Mountain, just beginning to look at Barbie. There's a book by Hannah Rosen, He's a writer for Slate, and it's called The End of Men. The End of Men. Major bestseller about a decade ago. And there's all sorts of spin-offs of that book since then. And one of the themes in the movie is the ridiculousness of the male desire to be a hero. Right? The mocking of the male desire to be a hero. Right? Did you get that, everybody? Wow. Right? You know, can I just share something personal for a second? Can I do a little personal thing for a second? So we just landed from this very intense summer. We landed back in where did we land back? Where did we live? In St. Johnsbury. So in Burlington, Vermont. And KK, Christina, had been flying from Bali, where she's working on this movie, which is a movie to introduce the phenomenology of Eros that we're working on into culture. So she's been flying for 40 hours. And I get back on Wednesday night. She's getting back on Thursday night. I, of course, want to be a hero. So I don't want KK to get off the plane, exhausted by herself. So I stay over at the hotel to greet her, right? And because I want to be a hero. And when she gets off the plane, right, she's exhausted. But what I'm really concerned with is, do you realize what a heroic thing I did and stayed another, 24 hours in order to greet you, right? And I'm laughing at myself because I want to be a hero, right? And then the next day, right, so we she was exhausted, so KK crashed, and then we get up the next morning and we go to get our car, and the car was stolen from the lot at the airport, which is its own saga that's taken a week, to kind of, handle. And then, just listen to this, then, so there was all sorts of drug paraphernalia in the car, and the correct economical thing to do would have been to get the car cleaned out. They call it to detail the car. That's what they call it. Get it completely cleaned out and take the car back, because we're paying, X payments for it a month. And Cake is like, no, we can't take that car back because it's not safe. And I'm like, well, of course it's safe. But Cake is saying, and then the car dealer guy says, well, we got this other deal for you, which is, of course, more expensive. And in the end, did we get this car that KK wanted? Of course we did. Why? Well, KK was, of course, probably right that we should have gotten the car, but that's not the point. The point is, I want to be a hero. So if I want to be a hero, I want to be able to pay the extra, $4 a month, whatever the price is, $100 a month, right, in order to have this car that makes KK feel like a queen, right, as she drives around St. Johnsbury, right? And it doesn't really matter whether we needed the car or didn't. She was probably right. We probably did. But that's not the point. The point is, I want to be the hero, right? I want to be a hero. Does everyone get that? Who gets that? Who gets that? I first turn to the men on the call. Who gets that? Right? You get this Sabri says, I get it. Right? We want to be a hero. And I'm going to tell you something. Who else gets it? Anyone else get it? Ujis, do you get it? You want to be a hero? Who else? You get some honesty here, right? Who gets it? I want to be a hero, right? I want to be a hero, right? Oh my God, right? Can you feel this? I want to be a hero. And can I tell you something? The place where I have like my real fights with KK, right, is when she's like, I feel like, oh my God, I just tried to be a hero and you didn't receive my offering. And there's nothing more devastating than for the hero to have their offering rejected, right? And here's the thing. The desire to be hero is not just a male desire. It's actually not true. See, that was patriarchy. That's where patriarchy hijacked it. The desire to be a hero is the desire of what I would call the line quality of the universe. The line quality is a quality which is before masculine and feminine, that men adopted when that quality of line, of showing up, the line shows up, and it's dramatic, and it's the sword, and it makes distinctions, right? And it creates, hierarchies of responsibility. I'm higher up in the line, so I have more responsibility, right? And so the male, the masculine, hijacked the line quality and said, right, actually, right, we're the heroes. But actually, the desire to be a hero lives in everybody. So I want to turn to all the women on the call. Who wants to be a hero? Okay, who's got that quality? And I think everybody does, right? Right? Who wants to be a hero? Right? Carla wants to be a hero, and Krista wants to be a hero. And Shahati, you want to be a hero, right? Right? We actually want to be a hero. We want to inconvenience ourselves, right? And be heroes. And there's nothing more devastating, right? When our offering of heroism, right, is rejected. And so there's this notion of we need to this is so deep, my friends, and this is going to get deeper and deeper, okay? This is going to get crazy. I'm going to write a note to myself to come back to this in a particular way. Do I have notes here someplace? Lane, Kristen Wiig's character, right, tells Ellen Page, right, put on some skates and be your own hero, right? You see, I want to be a hero, but I want to be a hero for you, right? I want to be a hero for you, okay? Stay close with that, right? I want my heroism to be received. So there's this enormous desire to be a hero. Now, Barbie doesn't want to get dressed for the masculine. Great step forward. But she also doesn't want to be a hero for the masculine. She wants to be creative. She wants to have a full life. She wants to be successful. She wants to be a great entrepreneur and she wants to be fulfilled. And that's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's a great evolutionary step forward. But she loses the truth of reality's relationship. Then the pathologized version of that truth then appears in Ken. Ken wants to be a hero. But Ken stands for the desire of the beloved to be a hero. He's the line expression of it. He's the engendered masculine expression of it, but it lives in all of us. But that desire to be a hero, which is an essential dimension of a love story. There is no love story without our desiring to be a hero for each other. Does everyone get that? The love story means we want to be a hero for each other. Who gets that? Right? Lovers want to be heroes. I'm going to get that sense. If you're a lover, you want to be a hero. Is that true? Is that true? Who gets that that's true? Who gets that that's true? Okay? Who gets that's true? That's true. If you're really a lover, you want to be a hero. That's the nature of being a lover. Right? And so Ken, he wants to be a hero. He wants, right, Mosa? Mosa, it's so awesome to see you, right? Right? In other words, wow, Ken wants Barbie to look at him and be a hero, but Barbie doesn't see any hero. And she blithely, right, superciliously, condescendingly praises him as he idiotically, right, smashes into, right, this brick barrier. And what does Ken do for a living? Nothing. What does Ken create? Nothing. What does Ken do? What does Ken do? Who remembers the movie? What does Ken do? Anybody? He beaches. Thank you. B-E-A-C-H-E-S. It's a verb. He beaches. He doesn't do anything. He just shows up. Now, by the way, does everyone notice that Ken has a really good chest, by the way? He always got his shirt open. If I had a chest like that, I might wear my shirt open also. But you know what I mean? But, poor me, right? Okay? Right? David's probably got it better going on than I do, okay? Right? And Melissa, okay? Back to Brokeback for you, okay? Right? But your Ken's always looking great, but you're not doing anything. He beaches. Right? He's not a hero. And she's, oh, you're so brave. Does everyone get that? Wow. Okay, so we've got to be heroes. Now just check this out for a second. So at level 1, we've got this old pathologized role mate, right? And that old role mate, the man's the hero, right? Level one role mate, level 1 relationships role mate, the man's the hero. He's the protector, provider. The woman tries to look beautiful for the man. And she's the nurturer, right? She creates the family, she bears the children, but the man's still called the hero. So that's correctly rejected. The man is the hero, but so is the woman. That's rejected by Barbie. That's a really good rejection. First off, the woman's got to be in her own beauty for its own sake. She gets dressed up for herself. Yes, that's beautiful. But then it pathologizes the very notion, right, of the relationship between Barbie and Ken. We're going to see that pathologizing of that relationship deepen in 10 ways. We're just getting started. You can't look at this week by itself. We're just getting started. The pathologized version of level 1 role relationship, I only exist in the gaze of the beloved, becomes Ken, not Barbie. That's 2. And then there's no hero. Right? Barbie's not a hero. She's being successful. Ken's not a hero. He's an idiot. He just beaches. Right? Wow. Okay. Okay, so that's where we are. Does everyone get where we are? Okay, that's where we are. Now, I'll just say one thing. We're gonna do a little foreshadowing, okay? So we're just at the beginning of, right? So Barbie's critiquing level 1 relationship. Okay? He's critiquing level 1 relationship. We begin to examine level 2 relationship, but it's appearing to be pathological. There's not the sense that, wow, generally, we go from role mate to soulmate. And soulmate's this beautiful, right, oh my God, this beautiful love story relationship between beloveds, men and women, women and women, men and men. That's what culture actually did. It went from roommate to soulmate. What Barbie is saying is soulmate's bullshit. There is no love story. Okay? Now, stay really close. Stay really close. Actually, implicit in the cultural story of soulmate was soulmate lives outside of the field of value. There is no field of value. We killed all the gods and goddesses. We killed value. But we thought we could kill value and retain only one value. Which one? Love. We'll kill all the goddesses except for Aphrodite, except for the goddess of love. So in other words, when we move in culture from roommate, which is the last 100,000 years, in different versions of it, but only in the last several decades, we move into soulmate, which takes place, mid-60s into the 70s and 80s. We move to soulmate. And my friend John Gray writes, Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, about soulmate relationships. And my friend Harville Hendrix writes his book, Getting the Love You Want, about soulmate relationships. It's about communication and vulnerability, right? And a person who I don't know, Gary Chapman, wrote a book called The Five Love Languages, which is about soulmate relationship. It's all about language and communication, which is a whole new quality of relationship. That's soulmate. So there's the attempt to kind of enact this new field of relationship, which is about this great love story. But this love story, they try and enact outside of the field of value. So at the same time in culture that we move from roommate to soulmate, we also move from modernity to postmodernity. And in postmodernity says there's no field of value. But there's got to be, something's got to be real. What are we going to make real? Oh, the romantic love story. In other words, so postmodernity says all that's left is the love story, right? The actual story that dominates culture, that actually drives us in all of our creative lives and all of our status lives and all of our social lives, is the success story. Rivalrous conflict governed by win-lose metrics. We feel its emptiness, so we actually have a booby prize, the love story. But actually, we don't really believe love is real, right? We killed all the goddesses except for Aphrodite, but you can't keep Aphrodite alive when you decontextualize her from the field of value. Who gets this? This is deep. Who gets this? Who gets this? Did I just lose everybody? Saying this is deep. Friends, this is so crazy deep. If you decontextualize love from the field of value, say, I love you. There is no I love you without value, and value creates responsibility. And when I have value, I inconvenience myself. And I recognize that this value of love is huge and beautiful, and it demands something from me. Intimacy creates obligation. Intimacy creates radical commitment. Intimacy creates the willingness to sacrifice, right? To bracket myself for the sake of your own transformation. I bracket myself in order to give to you. That's what love means. There is no love outside of the field of value. There's no love story outside of the field of value. So modernity tries to claim the love story without the field of value. And postmodernity tries to claim the love story without the field of value. But postmodernity is rooted in modernity that made the same move, but kind of hit it. Modernity assumes love is a value. Postmodernity says, no, we're gonna say I love you, but actually love's not real. Just go to ChatGPT-4. We did this a year ago in One Mountain, and ask ChatGPT-4, is love real? And ChatGPT-4 will tell you value is not ultimately real. It's all made up by each individual. And love is not ultimately a real intrinsic value of cosmos. ChatGPT-4, the new oracle, right, of the postmodern sensibility, right? The new oracle, far more dangerous than Google because it's a one-stop oracle. Love's not real. And my friends, that is exactly the point of the Barbie movie, as we're going to see. The point of the Barbie movie is going to be, there is ultimately no love story. There is no Ken and Barbie. You thought you could kill all the gods except for Aphrodite, and the great love story of Aphrodite will remain. It will not. It will not unless it's rooted in the field of value. And the field of value is a field of Eros. Eros is the value of cosmos. Eros, love, and intimacy is the value of cosmos. But Eros, love, and value are the structure of reality all the way down from subatomic particles all the way through the world of matter, all the way through the world of the biosphere, biology, all the way through the depth of the self-reflective human mind. In other words, Ken and Barbie is true, not because it's a human contrivance. Ken and Barbie is true because Ken and Barbie is the nature of reality. All the way up and all the way down the evolutionary chain, reality is Eros value all the way up and all the way down. You cannot cut off the flower at its root and expect the flower to bloom. The rose wilts. The rose wilts after a few years. You can't cut off love from its root in the field of Eros value, then expect love to remain real. And so along comes Barbie and says, you know what, my friends, there's no love story. And it chills the very heart of culture. And because there's no love story, there are no heroes. Right? You understand? There's no heroes. Right? Barbie says to Ken, you're brave at his idiocy. He beaches. It mocks the notion of the hero. And it correctly critiques, that's the paradox, critiques the ascription of the hero to only the masculine, but it does it by caricaturing the masculine's desire to be a hero. The idiot man wants to be a hero. For doing what? For beaching. But the notion that heroism could be real, right? That the hero is real. And that there's actually a new vision in which both men and women are heroes, both lines and circles. When I say lines and circles, what I refer to, if you haven't studied with us at all, is the notion of line, a geometric quality of reality, which is the quality that later got engendered as the masculine. That the line divides and the line creates appropriate hierarchies of responsibility, and the line creates language, and the line creates the movement forward, right? The line is the storyline, right? The line is a very powerful instrument of reality. And then there's the circle. And the circle goes for depth, and the circle contains, and the circle includes, and the circle also has this circular, it goes round and round until it can go even deeper, and it gets the cycle of life, right? And the circle, right? The circle holds. So there's these two qualities which are way before masculine and feminine, right? There's lines and circles all the way up and all the way down reality. And we'll talk about that more in the coming weeks. We spend the summer on it, right, at Mystery School, and we'll talk about that more. Okay, but I just wanted, if you weren't familiar with this, that's how we're using line and circles as qualities of reality, which actually go all the way down the evolutionary chain, and they begin at the first nanoseconds of the Big Bang, where in the first equations of physics, we actually already have, as philosopher of science Howard Bloom has pointed out, we already have attraction and repulsion, and attraction is a circle quality of allurement moving towards, encircling, right, creating a relationship with communion, right? And repulsion is autonomy. Independence, the vector, I'm independent. I've got my own line, my own direction, my own trajectory, my own plot line, my own story forward, right? So those exist in reality. At some point, they engender in both men and women, masculine and the feminine. But actually, lines and circles are not. It's not lines or men and circles or women. Actually, men and women are both lines and circles. Every man has both line and circle. Every woman has both line and circle. That's the beginning of the vision of Homo Amor, of the new human and the new humanity. Barbie doesn't have any of that available. Barbie is a critique, a correct critique of level one relationship, of role mate relationship in which men have all the line energy, and men are the heroes and they're thrusting forward, and women are the homemakers, right? But women also need to allure the men, so they've got to get dressed up for the men, but often in degrading ways. So it pathologizes that quality of the beauty of women, the allurement that women engender. Ascribes allurement only to women, not to men, right? It limits allurement to women and then pathologizes it. And then the feminine pathologized version of level one relationship reappears as Ken, who only exists if he can allure Barbie. But the allurement that Ken's trying to enact is absurd and stupid. So allurement itself is considered to be ridiculous. There's no real allurement. There's no hero. There's no hero, there's no allurement, because there's no love story. And there's no love story because there can't be a love story, because love is a value. And if I denude love from being a value, let's stay close. If love is not a value, if Eros is not a value of Cosmos, if it's a human contrivance, which is the argument of the Barbie movie, which I'm going to show that, I stake my life on it, and I'll show it in the text, we'll show it in scene after scene. but it's already apparent just in these first few scenes. Now, tell me something. I'm going to turn to everybody, okay? We're going to hold here, okay? Was this too much? This is a very deep read we're doing, and it's very subtle. It's going to get less subtle, meaning it's going to get more and more clear, but I'm doing it, and we're doing an insanely subtle read here, right? Step by step, okay? So can we hold this? Can we hold this, everybody? Can we hold this? Okay? And I want to create this model, right, in culture of how we do this, right? So I want to offer this to you as a complete gift, right? As a kind of training. This is how we do this, okay? And this is just the first. We've gone the first several steps here. We're going to stay in here, okay? We're holding, okay? We're going to hold until we know how to read these texts of culture. Then we're going to explode this into culture. This is going to appear as a book. It'll appear, on our channels. But ultimately, we want to create an entire movie channel analyzing texts of culture, because this is where culture gets the storyline wrong, and we need to be able to correct the storyline. But first, we have to see it. And so we've looked at these three or four, right, insanely subtle points. Okay. So let's hold here. Okay, let's hold here. Let's hold here. I want to say one more thing. Okay, and we're going to pick up from this next week. Okay, and we're going to pick up exactly next week. We've seen only the first scene. Like, we've made 3 or 4 kind of initial points, but each one subtle. Okay? Now, I want to ask just 2 things. I'm going to turn to Chris, who's going to close this up. So 1, I want to ask just anyone, if you haven't joined One Mountain, join. Make it yours. Make this revolution ours. This is non-profit. I don't get a salary. Right? This is just so we can actually take One Mountain into the world. So I'm just going to ask Chris to put it in the chat box. Invite if you're not a member. I think it's, what is it, $25-50 a month, whatever it is, just to sustain this, so it's self-sustaining, and we can take this the next step. That'd be awesome. So become a member. Number 1. Number 2, okay, we want to blow our hearts open here. Okay, this is prayer, right? This is where we're pouring our deepest heart's desire, right, into enacting a new source code and telling a new story. We got to do it for real. We can't skip steps. So these next few weeks, we're going to go crazy, crazy, crazy deep, right? In Barbie, then in Oppenheimer, okay? And let's just stay in together and do something unimaginably beautiful. We're gonna literally reweave together, right, the source code of culture. And we're gonna do it not by making something go viral. We're gonna do it by thinking clearly together. Okay? Oh my God. So step 1, we just took step 1. Like, oh my God, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I turn the word to Chris.